Let's start with a scenario that I think every single person listening has experienced this.
Oh, for sure.
You're having a perfectly normal day. Maybe you're at work, in a meeting, or you're at, a family barbecue. The vibe is good, conversation is flowing, and then someone says something.
And the air just gets sucked right out of the room.
Exactly. It's not a shout. It's not a slur. It's not a punch in the face. If you wrote the words down on paper, they might even look innocent.
Right.
But in that moment, it lands on you like a pinprick, a sharp, invisible sting. And you're just left there kind of frozen thinking, did they really just say that?
Or worse, you immediately start gaslighting yourself. You think, am I being too sensitive? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill?
Right. And while you are busy questioning your own reality, the conversation it moves on. The moment's gone.
But the feeling isn't.
That feeling stays. It sits in your chest for hours, maybe even days.
And that lingering feeling, that's the key here. The source material is very clear on this. It's not just hurt feelings or, an emotional reaction. It is a distinct physiological event.
Physiological.
Your body knows that something hostile just happened, even if your brain is frantically trying to rationalize it away to keep the peace.
So that is exactly what we are unpacking today. We are doing a deep dive into the world of microaggressions. But, and I want to be really clear about this up top, we are not just going to sit here and complain about how mean people can be.
No, and we're not just going to look at the sociology of it either.
No. We're taking a much more tactical approach today. We're looking at a stack of sources centered on a concept called transition awareness breathing.
Which sounds a little bit like yoga or meditation.
It does, but the application here is actually much grittier.
It is. We're looking primarily at the work of a nurse and a mindfulness expert who breaks this whole dynamic down into, biology and psychology. It's almost like triage.
Triage. I like that.
Yeah. When that sting happens, how do you stop the bleeding? How do you stabilize the patient when the patient is you?
The mission for this deep dive is to build a literal toolkit for you, the listener. We're going to talk about mental shields, physical resets, and a specific verbal strategy to navigate these interactions so you don't lose your cool.
And more importantly, so you don't lose your health.
Because the sources are very emphatic about this. Dealing with microaggressions isn't just about social etiquette, it's a health issue.
Absolutely. Chronic stress is a killer, and if you are constantly absorbing these little pinpricks without a way to process them, that inflammation, it builds up. It affects your heart, your sleep, your immune system.
So let's start at ground zero. We hear the word microaggression thrown around a lot these days.
All the time.
But I think it's helpful to strip it back to the definition provided in our source material because she deconstructs it linguistically in a way that really clicked for me.
It's always good to go back to the roots. So the expert in the text breaks it into two clear components, micro and aggression. Micro, obviously, means small.
Tiny. Blink and you miss it.
Exactly. And aggression refers to behavior, actions, or words that cause harm. So you weld them together, you have these small, subtle acts that inflict injury.
But the micro part is deceptive. That's the nuance that really struck me in the reading.
How so?
The source points out that these aggressions are almost always packaged in a way that hides the knife. It's not a big box labeled insult. It's wrapped up in curiosity or a joke or sometimes even a compliment.
That is exactly how the micro part works against you.
Yeah.
You have to peel away the intention to find the blade. And the source notes that while these are usually directed at minority populations, whether that's race, gender, religion, what have you, there's a massive complicating factor.
Which is?
The aggressor often has zero idea they are doing it.
That's the kicker. They might think they're just making conversation. They might think they're being funny. But the source argues that intent, it doesn't negate the impact.
Think of it this way. If I step on your foot by accident because I'm clumsy, does your foot hurt any less than if I stomped on it on purpose?
No, it still throbs.
Exactly. The source explains that even if the comment is small, your body reacts with legitimate stress. We're talking about a spike in blood pressure, a cortisol flood, a spike in blood sugar. Your ancient biology detects a threat to your social standing, and it treats it like a tiger in the bushes.
It's an evolutionary mismatch. Your body is gearing up for a physical fight over a verbal comment, and that mismatch is where the damage happens.
And it's cumulative. It's death by 1,000 cuts. One might not sink the ship, but 1,000 of them over a career. That's a huge problem.
To really illustrate how complex this gets and to challenge our own assumptions, the source shares this personal story. And I have to say, reading this, I thought I knew where it was going. I had the whole movie playing in my head, and then the script just flipped.
This is the story about her time as a Navy nurse, right?
Yes, it's such a vivid scene. So picture this. The author is a brand new Navy nurse officer. She's just finished nursing school. She survived officer training. She is crisp. She is in that white uniform, and she is just beaming, ready to serve.
And the context is important here. It's a high-stakes moment for her. It's her first time as a team leader. She's managing, what, 24 to 30 patients, leading other staff. She has the rank, but she's new.
She feels the pressure to prove she belongs there, precisely.
Right.
So she walks in to admit a new patient, an older female patient. The nurse walks in, shoulders back, big professional smile, and says, "Hello, I'm the nurse who will be taking care of you." Standard intro.
Polite,
Yeah.
respectful, and the reaction.
Ice cold. The patient looks at her, standing there in full uniform, clearly identifying herself, and says, "I want to talk to the nurse."
Wow. Immediate dismissal. That's the sting right there.
The nurse tries again. She assumes maybe the patient didn't hear her or is confused. She clarifies, "I am the nurse," but the patient is not having it. She starts drilling her with these really personal, invasive questions.
Like what?
What church do you go to? Who are your people? And finally, she just drops the hammer. "They can't take care of me."
Okay, so if we pause the tape right there, the standard narrative would assume this is a cross-racial conflict. You assume it's a white patient rejecting a minority nurse. That's the pattern we're used to hearing about.
That is exactly what I pictured. I was getting ready to be angry on her behalf about racism. But here's the twist from the source. The patient was African American.
So is the nurse.
And so is the nurse.
This is such a crucial inclusion in the source material. It just complicates the narrative in a really necessary way. The expert uses this to highlight that microaggressions and bias, they aren't just external forces between different races. They exist within cultures.
It's internalized bias, isn't it? The patient had a specific mental model of what a Navy nurse should be. Maybe she expected someone older or white or from her specific church.
And this young officer didn't fit the box in her head. It shows that bias around religion or expectations of what authority looks like, it runs deep. We police our own community sometimes harder than anyone else. But what stands out to me in this story isn't just the herd, it's the nurse's reaction, or rather, her response.
Right, she didn't fight back. She didn't pull rank and say, "Look at my bars, respect my authority."
She didn't. She didn't lecture the woman. She recognized that the patient was agitated and that forcing the issue would just compromise care. She went out, found a male nurse, swapped teams, and she prioritized the patient's comfort over her own ego.
That takes a level of professional detachment, that is. Honestly, it's impressive.
It is, and it leads perfectly into the next major concept the source introduces, the massive difference between reacting and responding.
I think we use these words interchangeably, right? In daily life. What was his reaction versus what was his response? We treat them as synonyms.
But the source draws a hard, bright line between them, a very hard line. The source points out that the word react contains the word act. It implies an impulse. A reaction is raw, emotional, and usually immediate. It comes from the amygdala, the lizard brain.
It's the knee jerk. Someone insults you, you snap back, or you get defensive. And then later that night, you're lying in bed staring at the ceiling thinking, "Ugh, why did I say that? I sounded crazy."
Exactly. Reacting creates this debris field. You have to clean up the mess later. It generates anxiety and regret. Responding, on the other hand, is a conscious choice. It involves the prefrontal cortex, the thinking brain.
The source calls it a micro break.
Right. It requires strength. You have to pause, process the data, override the impulse, and then choose a course of action. It's the difference between a reflex and a strategy.
But let's be real, it is so easy to fall into that react trap. We're wired for it. And what's interesting is the source material doesn't just paint the author as the hero. She shares a story where she was the aggressor.
The piano story. This one really hits home for anyone who's a parent or a teacher or a manager, really.
So the author is at home, she's busy doing her thing, and suddenly she hears this music from the other room. Beautiful, fluid piano music.
Just gorgeous. And she knows her son, Zachariah, is at the piano.
Right. So she peeks around the corner, totally shocked, and she asks him, "Is that you?"
Now, just listen to that phrasing. Is that you? On the surface, it sounds like praise. It sounds like, wow, you're amazing.
That's how I would have taken it. I would have thought I was giving a massive compliment, but she realized later it was a microaggression. Why?
Because of the surprise. Why was she so surprised that her son could create something beautiful? She admits in the text that she had boxed him in. She expected him to play in his usual way, which she describes as robotic and monotone.
So she didn't expect brilliance from him.
And that expectation, or the lack of it, that's the aggression. It stifles growth. If the people closest to you, the people who are supposed to believe in you, only expect mediocrity.
Well, why should you try to be great? Wow, that is heavy. It really highlights that ignorance, not just malice, fuels these moments. She loved him, she didn't mean to hurt him, but the message he received was, I didn't think you were capable of this.
It's a powerful lesson. We have to check our own surprise sometimes.
Mm.
Sometimes our surprise betrays our low expectations, and that can be just as damaging as an insult.
Okay, so we've defined the sting. We know it hurts us biologically. We know the difference between the impulsive react and the strategic respond. But we need the tactical gear. When someone drops a microaggression on us, what do we actually say?
Right. What's the tool?
And the source gives us a specific tool called mirroring.
This is the core technique. Mirroring or using reflective statements. The idea is simple, but psychologically very powerful. You do not argue. You do not defend yourself. You simply repeat the person's exact words back to them, maybe with a slight framing.
So going back to the nurse story, she didn't say, "Hi, I'm a good nurse. Look at my badge."
No, that's defensive. That's reacting. That validates the insult by showing it hurt you. Instead, she said to the patient, I want to be clear that you are wanting someone else to care for you.
Why does that work so well? It feels almost passive, like you're just taking dictation.
It feels passive, but it's actually incredibly assertive. First, it creates distance. It signals, these are your words, not mine. You aren't taking ownership of the insult. You're leaving it right on their doorstep.
It's like holding up a physical mirror. Here, look what you just said.
Literally. And the source uses this brilliant analogy from the world of marketing. Think about a sales pitch. What's the goal of a salesman?
To get you to buy the product, to agree to the transaction.
Right. When someone throws a microaggression at you, they are trying to sell you a version of reality. They're selling you a version of yourself where you are less than or incompetent. They want you to buy it.
And by mirroring,
you are refusing the transaction. You're looking at the product and saying, no thanks, I'm not buying this.
I love that. You just refuse to swipe the credit card.
And the source mentions that often, when you repeat the words back to the aggressor, they realize how silly or offensive they sound. When they hear their own words coming out of your mouth, stripped of your emotional reaction, it forces them to confront what they actually said.
It slows the whole communication down. It puts a speed bump in the conversation.
Exactly. And that speed bump buys you time to breathe. It stops the spiral.
Which brings us to the body part of this deep dive. Okay, so you've mirrored the comment. You kept your cool verbally. But let's be honest, your heart is still pounding, right? Your cortisol is still spiking.
Yes. The conversation might be over, but your body is still in the trenches. Your biology thinks the tiger is still in the room. And this is where the transition awareness breathing really comes in. You can't just think your way out of a physiological stress response. You have to hack the biology.
The source gives some really specific, almost mechanical hacks. And I want to get into the details here because take a deep breath is advice we hear all the time and we usually ignore it. But the source suggests breathing math.
It's all about the ratios. The source suggests inhaling for a count of 4 and exhaling for a count of 6 or 7.
Why the longer exhale? Why does that matter?
That's the biological switch. The inhale is linked to the sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight gas pedal. The exhale is linked to the parasympathetic nervous system, the rest and digest brake pedal.
So if you're just breathing in and out equally, you aren't actually calming down.
You might even be revving yourself up. You have to force the exhale to be longer to tell your brain the threat is over. We are safe now. It's a manual override for your heart rate.
And then there's movement. The source suggests doing this maybe in the bathroom or in your car. Shoulder rolls, but not just random stretching.
No, she specifies the row, row, row your boat motion.
I loved that detail. It seems so childish, but I guess that's the point.
It adds a touch of humor, which breaks the tension. But biomechanically, think about how we stand when we're defensive. Shoulders up to the ears, neck tight, jaw clenched. We turn into a turtle.
Totally. I carry all my stress right in my traps.
Exactly. So rolling the shoulders back and forward and rotating the head, it physically releases that tension pattern. You are mechanically unlocking the stress posture.
She also talks about mindful walking, which sounds fancy, but it's really just about using your exit strategy effectively.
It's about intention. If you just storm off, stomping your feet, slamming the door. That's a reaction. You're still engaged in the fight.
You're just walking the anger to a different room.
Yes. But if you say, excuse me, I need a moment,
Mm-hmm.
and then you walk away focusing on your feet hitting the floor, heel toe,
Yeah.
you are actively disconnecting from the aggressor. You're grounding yourself in the physical reality of the moment, not the mental reality of the insult.
So let's put it together. You've walked away, you're breathing in for 4, out for 7. You're rowing your boat in the break room, but your mind is still racing. I can't believe she said that. I should have said this. This source provides a visualization for this that I thought was just profound. The highway visualization.
This is one of the strongest tools in the whole stack. The source asks you to imagine you are driving on a beautiful, clear highway. Blue skies, open road. You are cruising.
And then traffic hits.
The bad drivers appear. In this visualization, these drivers represent the microaggressors. They cut you off, they swerve into your lane, they honk.
So what's the strategy?
You stay in your lane. You don't try to run them off the road. You definitely don't roll down your window and start screaming at them.
No.
You don't chase them. You don't hit them. You maintain your speed limit and you let them pass.
And the lesson here is about what? Stoicism.
It is, the source says. You don't know why they're driving badly. Maybe they're a new driver. That's ignorance. Maybe they have a medical emergency. That's stress. Maybe they're just having the worst day of their life.
Or maybe they really are just a jerk.
Maybe. But the point is, you pass no judgment. You just protect your own vehicle. You protect your own peace. If you road rage back at them, now you are driving dangerously too. You've allowed their bad driving to compromise your safety.
That is such a useful image. Just let them speed by. They're on their own trip. You don't have to go with them.
And that really connects back to the core philosophy here.
Right.
We can't control the traffic. We can't control what other people say or their biases or their ignorance. But we can control the reality we accept.
The source puts it in a really interesting way regarding freedom of speech. We hear that defense a lot, right? Someone says something offensive and then says, hey, I can say what I want. It's a free country.
Right. And the source pushes back on that hard. She argues that using freedom of speech to be negative or hurtful isn't freedom. It's bullying. She champions a different concept, the freedom to be positive.
The freedom to be positive. I like that. It flips the script. It's not about silencing people. It's about choosing to contribute something constructive.
And on the flip side, it protects the listener. It gives you the freedom to reject the negativity. You are free to not accept the package.
There was one final thought from the source that I want to leave everyone with. It's a short phrase, but it does a lot of heavy lifting. She said, thoughts are not realities.
This is the ultimate shield. If someone projects a bias onto you, if they think you aren't qualified because of how you look, or they think you can't play piano well, that is their thought. It's an opinion. It is a firing of neurons in their brain. It is not your reality.
And we confuse the two all the time. We hear the opinion and we treat it like a fact, like it defines us.
But we have the power to leave it as just a thought that belongs to them, not us. You don't have to adopt it.
So let's recap this toolkit, because next time this happens, and it will happen, we want you to be ready. Step 1. Recognize the sting. Feel it. Don't gaslight yourself. Acknowledge your body is reacting.
Step 2. Don't react impulsively. Choose to respond. Take that micro break.
Step 3. Use the mirror. Repeat their words back. Refuse the transaction. I'm not buying what you're selling.
And step 4. Use your physical resets. Breathe out longer than you breathe in. Do the math. And drive your car on that highway. Let the bad drivers pass you by.
It's a comprehensive approach. It takes practice. I mean, it's not magic, but it changes the power dynamic completely.
You stop being a victim of the conversation, and you start being the navigator.
It really does. So here is a question for you to carry with you today. Next time someone tries to hand you an insult packaged as a casual comment, next time they try to sell you a version of yourself that is small or incompetent or less than, are you going to buy it? Or are you just going to hold up the mirror?
It's your choice.
Thanks for diving deep with us today. Keep those shields up, protect your peace, and we'll see you next time.